Let's begin. This is another important topic for NET. How would you find the length of DNA molecule in double stranded DNA and single stranded DNA? Length of double stranded DNA. Okay. So if you have two DNA strands, now we know that the DNA strands are helical, but for our understanding we are drawing it straight. Okay. So say these are two DNA strands which run parallel to each other, right? And these blue dots which I have shown are what? They are the nucleotides based on those strands, right? And in between what you have is the hydrogen bonds or covalent bonds. Now you must know that we have four nitrogen bases: adenine, guanine, cytosine and thymine. Adenine always pairs with thymine with two double bonds. So to calculate the length of DNA in double stranded strands. Okay. Now here I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? Now here I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have got 5 nucleotide base pairs. Right? So these are base pairs. Base meaning this: adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine. These are the nitrogen bases and they are in pairs. Like here if you have adenine, here you will have thymine. Here if you have cytosine, here you will have guanine and so on. So I am having 5 nucleotide base pairs. That means the length of my DNA would be what? Okay. It would be calculated by the length of one nucleotide multiplied by 5. Okay. So one nucleotide, how much space it has occupied, that multiplied by 5, if I do, I will get the length of double stranded DNA. Okay. And if the question comes that how many nucleotides are there in 5 nucleotide base pairs, then the answer is very simple. 5 into 2, that is 10 nucleotides, right? So when I say base pairs, that means you have 2 nucleotides in one pair, isn't it? How do we say pair of socks? When I say pair of socks, meaning I have 2 socks, isn't it? I have a pair of earbuds, that means 2 earbuds. When I say base pairs, meaning each pair is having how many nucleotides? 2 nucleotides. So when I am having 5 pairs, that means 5 multiplied by 2, that is 10 nucleotides are there in that double stranded DNA. Is that clear? Now let us see the number of nucleotides in diploid cell and haploid cell. Okay. Diploid cell and haploid cell. First let us take diploid cell. Now we all know that diploid meaning 2n number of chromosomes. So in humans, if you are considering, we know that 2n is equal to 46. Now the number of nucleotides, it has been calculated. Okay, this all has been calculated that number of base pairs in a diploid cell is how much? 6.6 into 10 raised to 9 base pairs. Please do not get confused between base pairs and bases. When I say bases or nucleotides, meaning only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. When I say base pairs, meaning if I say 5 base pairs, meaning I am having 10 nucleotides or 10 bases. Right. So please be pretty clear with this. Now 2n is equal to 46. So it has been calculated that in a diploid cell, the number of base pairs is how much? The number of base pairs is 6.6 into 10 raised to 9 base pairs. Now if you calculate this in nucleotides, what will you have to do? Multiply by 2. Okay, so 6.6 into 2, that is how much? 13.2. This will remain same, 10 raised to 9 nucleotides. Okay, or I can say just bases. Now this pair word has gone, right? Because that pair I have converted into single. So I have multiplied by 2. So if a question comes that what is the number of nucleotides in a diploid cell, you will say 13.2 into 10 raised to 9. If the question comes that what is the number of base pairs in a diploid cell, you will say 6.6 into 10 raised to 9 base pairs. Is this clear? So you will have to remember this figure, only one figure. Then rest becomes very easy. Like what? Now in haploid cell, if I say calculate the number of nucleotides in sperm or ovum, any, because both are haploid, isn't it? So sperm and ovum, or you can even call it as egg. So these are sex gametes, so they are haploid. That means here n is equal to how much? N is equal to 23. That means in 23 chromosomes, how many base pairs will we have? We will have exactly half of this, right? So if I have to calculate nucleotide base pairs, suppose if I say calculate base pairs, then what will it be? 6.6 into 10 raised to 9 base pairs divided by 2. What answer will you get? 66 divided by 2 is how much? 33, right? That means 3.3 into 10 raised to 9 base pairs. Now this is in pairs, understand. So you will have to convert this into bases if they ask you. So again the same thing, 3.3 multiplied by 2 into 10 raised to 9 bases, right? Or I can just call them as nucleotides. So the answer will come as the original figure, isn't it? Here we have divided by 2, again we are multiplying by 2, meaning we will get what? 6.6 into 10 raised to 9. But now this pairs word will not come. Now it will be only bases. Okay. So this is how, if you are logically clear, then you don't have to memorize the figure. At least one figure you will have to memorize, that in a diploid cell, that means in 46 chromosomes, you have 6.6 into 10 raised to 9 base pairs. Is this clear? The structure of nucleotides. Very important that we know that the two strands of DNA are nothing but polynucleotide chains. Before that, let me give you some conversion factors. Okay, you will have to memorize them. See, oftenly the DNA double helix dimensions are either given in nanometer or they are given in angstrom. So you will have to remember one conversion factor, and that I am giving you. Okay, so write down 1 nanometer is equal to 10 angstrom unit. Now nano meaning what? Nano meaning 10 raised to minus 9. See, so 1 nanometer, if I have to convert it into meter, then it will be how much? 1 nanometer is equal to 10 raised to minus 9 meter. So this you must know. These are basic conversion factors. Now 1 nanometer is 10 angstrom, right? Then if I have to convert angstrom into meter, what will be the value? You are getting my point? 1 nanometer is 10 angstrom. Then 1 angstrom is equal to how much meter? Calculate, very simple. Now if 1 nanometer is 10 angstrom, then if I do vice versa, then 1 angstrom will be 1 upon 10 nanometer. Isn't it? You're getting my point. I have just got this 10 figure. I have brought this 10 figure on LHS. So here what, if 10 comes over here, what remains here? 1. So 1 angstrom is equal to 1 upon 10 nanometer. So 1 upon 10 is what? 10 raised to minus 1 nanometer. So 1 angstrom is 10 raised to 10 raised to minus 1 nanometer. Now we know that 1 nanometer is how much? 10 raised to minus 9 meter. So what I will do? 10 raised to minus 1 multiplied by 10 raised to minus 9. That therefore 1 angstrom is equal to 10 raised to minus 10 meters. Now when I draw DNA double helix, suppose this is my DNA double helix, right? You have two strands. I have discussed this earlier also, that the two strands of DNA, meaning what? They are nothing but polynucleotide strands. You can call it as strand, you can call it as chain, okay? Right? Okay? Now, these are two polynucleotide strands. When I say polynucleotide, meaning what? Poly means many. Okay? So, poly meaning many. And it has got many units of nucleotides. Right? Like for example, I am wearing a garland of tulsi mala. Okay? Kanthi mala. So, one bead is one nucleotide, second bead is second nucleotide, third bead is third nucleotide. Like this is forming a chain of polynucleotide. Understood? It's a polymer. Poly refers to many units of nucleotides. So, here I have got many nucleotides. Okay? And in one strand, this is the first strand of DNA and this is my second strand of DNA, right? On both the strands, I am having nucleotides. So this is forming a polynucleotide chain. I am having two polynucleotide chains in a DNA. Now, it's very simple. If I have to understand what the polynucleotide chain is made up of, I must know what is nucleotide made up of. You have the suffix OSE, meaning sugar, glucose, maltose, fructose, sucrose, galactose, ribulose, xylulose, mannose, blah blah blah, or say deoxyribose and ribose. So these are all sugars, but basically the nucleotide sugar, that is deoxyribose sugar, is present in DNA and ribose sugar is present in RNA. Both of these sugars contain 5 carbon atoms, so they are pentose sugar. And the third component in nucleotide is phosphate. Okay, phosphate. Now phosphate is also designated as PO4 2 minus. Now when you add oxygen to any element, you give the suffix as ate. Like suppose if I mix oxygen with carbon atom, carbonate, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, carbon trioxide. These are all carbonates, right? So same way, when I mix oxygen with phosphorus, inorganic phosphorus, it gets converted to phosphate. Now, these are the three basic components in nucleotide. Okay. Simultaneously, we will do, we will study a comparative account of DNA and account of DNA and RNA sugars, right? Now, it's a 5 carbon sugar, right? So this is how you represent. This structure is called as furan. Okay, furan and pyran. There are two ways of representing the molecule. Okay, so this is furan structure. Now, in this cyclic chain, wherever I have drawn this edges meaning carbon atom is present over there. So you don't need to write CCCC. You can just put this edges. That means carbon is present there. Now I am numbering clockwise. For sugar, I am numbering clockwise. How does the clock goes? 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So I'll start numbering from this end. So this is my first sugar, C1. I mean 2, 1 prime, 2 prime, 3 prime, 4 prime, and the fifth carbon atom is present outside the ring. Okay, it is present outside this ring over here. So CH2OH, right? Basically, sugar is a carbohydrate. You all know that, right? Whether it is deoxyribose, ribose, glucose, fructose, glucose, these are all carbohydrates. And carbohydrates meaning what? Carbohydrates. How has the word come? Okay. Carbohydrates meaning hydrates of carbon. Meaning I can represent them like this. Okay. So this I can call as a carbohydrate. I have not completed, but for example. So hydrate meaning what? Water molecule H2O. So I have splitted this H2O into H and OH. So these are hydrates of carbon. Same way here also in this ribose and deoxyribose, these are nothing but hydrates of carbon. Now here if I am having OH, then here I'll have H. Here if I am having OH, here I'll have H. Here I'll have H. Here I'll have H. Here I'll not have OH. Why? I'll tell you later. Then here if I am having OH, here I'll have H. So this is the structure of DNA. Okay, now the question will come, ma'am, here you have put H, here it should be OH. But it is deoxy. Okay, it is deoxyribose sugar. In DNA, we have deoxy sugar. Deoxy meaning oxygen atom is less. One oxygen atom is less as compared to RNA. So, which oxygen atom is less? The oxygen atom present on carbon number 2. Right? So, here this oxygen atom is less. So, it is called deoxyribose sugar. Rest all valencies remain the same in RNA. Okay? So, how will I draw RNA? In the same fashion. Okay. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, CH2OH. This is fifth carbon. This is fourth. This is third. This is second. This is first. Okay. Then H, OH, H, OH. Here it is OH. Here it will be H. So, this is again here OH and H. So, this is your ribose sugar. Now, you will see that at carbon number 2, OH is present. But here it is absent. Oxygen is absent. Oxygen atom is not there. So, deoxy. Right? That's the only difference in ribose sugar and deoxyribose sugar. So, we have finished about sugars. Phosphate is an inorganic molecule. Understand this, that in nucleotide, phosphate is inorganic, but nitrogen bases are organic. Sugar is also, you can say, inorganic, right? So, let us see how the phosphate is derived in case of nucleotides. Okay. Now, phosphate is derived from, phosphoric acid. Phosphoric acid. Phosphoric acid meaning H3PO4. Right? Now, in a cell's metabolism, we have thousands of metabolic reactions occurring. Now, in the end product of metabolic reaction, sometimes you have some acid as being generated, sometimes some bases are generated. Okay, so these are the byproducts of metabolism. So, in a cell also, in a cell cytoplasm also, you have this phosphoric acid. That phosphoric acid is utilized by the cell to form phosphate molecule. Okay. Now, you must know a little bit of chemistry, that is the valency. So, the valency of phosphate is what? 5. Right? That means what? Phosphorus can attach to, or rather it can form 5 covalent bonds with 5 atoms. Right? So, here phosphorus is forming 4 covalent bonds with 4 oxygen atoms. See what we are writing, how we are denoting phosphate as PO4 2 minus and not PO5. Right? How we are designating phosphate? PO4 and not PO5. What does it mean? It simply means that phosphorus is binding to 4 oxygen atoms and not 5, right? So how will it bind? Say here in the center I am writing phosphorus and say like this. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 oxygen atom. Phosphorus is binding to 4 oxygen atoms, but there are 5 electrons, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 bonds will be there, isn't it? So, here I am drawing double bond on phosphorus with this oxygen. Second thing you must remember that every atom rather tries to achieve stability, and that stability is achieved by duplet or octet. In chemistry, you must have studied this. Duplet meaning 2 and octet meaning 8. So in the valence shell, if the atom is having 2 electrons or 8 electrons, then it is stable. But this is a rare condition in phosphate wherein the phosphate expands its valency. It goes more than 8. Okay, more than 8 it goes. Why? Because we know that for every bond to be formed, you should have pair of electrons. One electron coming from phosphorus, the other coming from oxygen. So it will form a bond. But here if you see 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, it's more than 8, right? So the phosphorus has expanded its shell, okay, in order to form phosphate. Is this clear? See, you can call them as nitrogen bases or you can even call them as nitrogenous bases. They mean one and the same. Okay, nitrogenous bases. So these nitrogenous bases can be broadly classified into two categories. Okay, one is purines and the other is pyrimidines. Purines and pyrimidines. Okay. Both of them are heterocyclic. Both of them are heterocyclic. Like this. If I start numbering from this nitrogen atom, this is how you will get. So I am drawing the basic structure of purine. Now purines are heterocyclic. Cyclic meaning what? See, this is a cyclic chain. Okay, it's completing. And its cycle meaning what? It is complete. Right? Bicycle. The wheel is completing. So this is cyclic. But what kind of cyclic it is? Heterocyclic. How is this ring structure? It is heterocyclic. Why I am saying it is heterocyclic? Because it has got different atoms in the chain. See, I told you before that if I am drawing like this, meaning carbon is present over here. So here also there is carbon, here is there and a nitrogen is present. That means two different atoms are present within the same cyclic chain. So it is called heterocyclic, right? Here also I will draw the basic structure of pyrimidine. That is also heterocyclic. How? So here also you find there is nitrogen and carbon inside the chain. So I can even call this as heterocyclic, right? Now you know that due to resonance effect, if I have double bond over here, then there won't be double bond here. Then again alternatively I'll have double bond, I won't have. Here you see that they are 9-membered ring. They are 9-membered ring and here it is a 6-membered ring. 9 membered and 6 membered meaning what? How many members are there in the ring? Like in the ring, how many members are present? That means let us count from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is a 9 membered ring. You will calculate over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is a 6 membered ring. Then I'll use one more term. These are bicyclic. These are bicyclic and these are monocyclic. How? Bi meaning two. Okay. So I am having two ring structures. Okay. One ring and second ring. So this is bicyclic. I am having only one ring over here. So this is monocyclic. Now let us consider purine first. Purine is bicyclic. This ring, of course, you know, this is benzene ring, right? But now this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This 5-sided ring is called what? It is called imidazole ring. Okay, this structure. This is called imidazole ring. So purine has got one benzene ring and one imidazole ring. But pyrimidines have only one benzene ring. So they are monocyclic, right? So these are some differences between purines and pyrimidines. Now these purines have got two bases, nitrogenous bases. I am writing over here only, adenine and guanine. And pyrimidines have got two nitrogen bases, cytosine, thymine. This is in case of DNA. Okay. In DNA, you will have cytosine and thymine. But in case of RNA, you have uracil instead of thymine. I will designate them as capital A, adenine, guanine, cytosine and thymine. Okay. Here I have mentioned thymine in DNA. Now in RNA, which bases do you get to see? Three bases are common. Which? Adenine, guanine, cytosine. But instead of thymine, in RNA, you have uracil and it is designated as U. So see, in evolution or sometimes mutations occur, isn't it? So during mutations, there is quite likely that some abnormal nitrogen base is being formed. Okay. So if we know the structure of normal base, then we can identify this base is mutated base, okay, or abnormal base. So we are going to study the structures of these 5 bases. Now how to remember these structures? Very simple. If you remember the name of that purine, chemical name. So if you remember the chemical name of that purine or pyrimidine, it will become easy for you to draw the structure. Like what? Say adenine. First is adenine. The chemical name of adenine is what? 6-aminopurine. Okay. Now this is what you will have to memorize. Now if we are able to memorize 10-digit mobile number, then it's very easy to remember the names of 4 to 5 bases, right? So 6-aminopurine. Right? So this is a basic structure. Now there are 2 nitrogen atoms in this benzene ring. From where to start numbering? Let us start numbering from this nitrogen. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you will not go over here. You will complete the ring first. Benzene ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you will come on this side. 7, 8, 9. Right? This is how you will number in purines. Now, you will see that at carbon at position 1, at position 3, at position 7 and at position 9, what you are having is nitrogen atom. So 1, 3, 7, 9 you will put nitrogen, rest all is carbon. Okay. After that what you are going to do is 6 amino purine. Now 6 amino meaning what? At position number 6 you are having amino group. What is the functional group? Amino. So I will put over here NH2. And why I am saying it purine? Because adenine and guanine are purines. Isn't it? Adenine, guanine are purines. Cytosine, thymine, uracil are pyrimidines. At 1 and 6 you have double bond. Okay. Then at between 2 and 3 you have double bond. Between 4 and 5 you have double bond. Between 7 and 8 you have double bond. So alternatively you will have double bond. Now understand amino group, it's a simple group. It is not a ketonic group, meaning it is not double bond group. What is a ketonic group? C double bond O, right? So this is not a ketonic group. That means here you will have double bond immediately. Here you won't have, here you'll have. Here you won't have, here you'll have. Here you won't have, here you'll have. Here you won't have, right? So now we have to satisfy, once we have put on the double bonds, you have to satisfy the valency of carbon and nitrogen. There are only two elements in the ring, carbon and nitrogen. Now we know that carbon is what? Carbon is tetravalent. And we also know that nitrogen is trivalent. Right? So I'll tell you a simple way where to put H and where not to put H. Okay? So let us start with from N. Okay, we'll start from 1. Numbering we have started from 1 nitrogen. So we'll start from here. Now nitrogen is trivalent. So is it forming 3 bonds? Trivalent meaning 3 electrons. 3 electrons meaning it can form 3 bonds with 3 other atoms. So 1, 2, 3. So the valence is satisfied. Now let us move on to carbon. Carbon is tetravalent, meaning it should form 4 covalent bonds. How many bonds it's forming? 1, 2 and 3. So the fourth you will write here as H. So wherever the valence is not getting satisfied, you will put H. That means it is forming a hydrogen bond over there, right? Let us move on to this nitrogen. 1, 2, 3, satisfied. Carbon, 1, 2, 3, 4, satisfied. Carbon, 1, 2, 3, 4. This carbon, 1, 2, 3, 4. This nitrogen, 1, 2, 3. This carbon, 1, 2, 3. And then I'll put here as H. Right? Now this nitrogen, 1, 2. Then I'll put here as H. This is how you are going to number the ring first. Then put the functional group. Then put the double bonds. And lastly what you will do is add the hydrogen atom. So this should be your sequence of drawing the structure. What? First is what? First step is numbering. Second is what? Adding the functional group. Okay. Functional group meaning like in this case it is amino. So you will add the functional group. Third step is what? Put the double bonds. Okay. Double bonds. And lastly what you do is add the hydrogen atoms. Is this clear? So I hope you don't have to memorize the structure, but you'll have to memorize the name. Now adenine is done. Then now second is guanine. So the chemical name of guanine is 2-amino 6-keto. 2-amino 6-keto. Purine. Nitrogen, carbon, nitrogen, carbon, 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 nitrogen, carbon, nitrogen. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you see that I have numbered like this in this ring, and in this ring I have numbered like this. Are you getting? Here I have numbered what? anti-clockwise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And for imidazole ring, I have numbered in clockwise. So for benzene ring, you number clockwise, anti-clockwise, and for imidazole ring, you will number clockwise. This is in case of purines, but in pyrimidines, you will number in clockwise direction. Here, I have numbered. Second step is what? Functional group. Now 2 amino 6 keto. Now 6 keto I can also write as 6 oxy. Okay, ionic group meaning what? C double bond O. And I can even call it as oxy because oxygen is there in it. So 2 amino. So at position number 2, I have amino group NH2. At 6, I have ketonic group. So C double bond O. Right? Now once I have written the functional group, third step is what? Double bonds. Now see how you will put the double bonds. Look here. Now here there is already double bond. Here we had a double bond. Here we won't get a double bond. Why? Because I am having a double bond at carbon. So you won't have two double bonds lying near by near due to resonance effect. Okay. So that one double bond, the double bond which is present here in adenine will shift now. Rest remains the same. Here also you can put a double bond. So here there won't be double bond. Here you will have, and here you will have double bond. Right? Now let us add the hydrogen atoms. Carbon, let's start from here. Nitrogen 1, 2, H. Carbon 1, 2, 3, 4. Nitrogen 1, 2, 3. Carbon 1, 2, 3, 4. Carbon 1, 2, 3, 4. Carbon 1, 2, 3, 4. Nitrogen 1, 2, 3. Carbon 1, 2, 3 and I'll write H over here. Nitrogen 1, 2 and H over here. Right? So this is how you will fill up the valency of carbon and nitrogen at the end. Okay? So 4 amino and 2 keto. This is how you will remember. Okay, adenine is very simple, 6 amino purine. The confusion is between guanine and cytosine. So guanine, what number you will remember is 26. Now 26 comes first, 42 comes later. So guanine comes first, cytosine comes later. This is how I have memorized. Okay, you find your way of memorizing. So first what we will draw is the basic benzene ring. Now here the numbering is 4 amino 2 oxy. So at 4 I have amino group and at 2 I have ketonic group or oxy group. Right? So now the functional groups are done. What is remaining is the double bond. So simply I'll put the double bonds. Okay. Now here I will not have a double bond because already there is double bond over here of ketonic group. So here the double bond will be skipped. You will have double bond over here. Right? Now last what is remaining is balancing the valency of nitrogen and carbon. Let's start with nitrogen first. 1, 2, 3 is H. Then 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Nitrogen 1, 2, 3. Carbon 1, 2, 3, 4. Carbon 1, 2, 3 and H. This carbon 1, 2, 3 and H. Okay. So this is a structure of cytosine. Now adenine, guanine, cytosine, as I said, they are common in DNA as well as RNA. Now let us come to the base which is different in DNA and RNA. First we will take the base thymine which is present in DNA. Okay. So the chemical name of thymine is 2,4-diketo-5-methyl-pyrimidine. As I said that keto can also be called as oxy. Okay, so 2,4-dioxy-5-methyl-pyrimidine or 2,4-diketo-5-methyl-pyrimidine. You might find it very difficult. The name is very long, but the structure is very simple. Let us draw the structure. Its basic structure would be like cytosine only. Benzene ring you will draw first. Okay. Okay. And you will number the benzene ring 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? As I numbered over here, in the same fashion you will number. Now let's put the functional group. What? 2, 4 diketo. Meaning at position 2 you have ketonic group. At position 4 you have ketonic group. At 5 methyl. At carbon number 5 I have methyl group, that is CH3. Right? Now once this is done, what is the next thing? After doing that, double bonds. Now let us see. Will you have a double bond here? No, because there is already a double bond here. Will you have a double bond here? No, because there is a double bond here. So you will have only one double bond in thymine, that is between carbon number 5 and 6. Right? So once double bond is done, last step is what? Last step is balance the valency of carbon and nitrogen. Let us start from first position. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nitrogen 1, 2, 3. Carbon 1, 2, 3, 4. Carbon 1, 2, 3, 4. Carbon 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So this is a structure of. Now this uracil is a culprit. Okay, I'll call it as a culprit because because of the structure of uracil, there are mutations occurring in RNA. If somebody asks you that why does the RNA keep on mutating and why the DNA is stable, it is because of the structure of uracil. Because of the uracil present in RNA, RNA is unstable. And thanks to God or thanks to nature, that thymine is present in us, in DNA. And because of thymine, the DNA is stable. And because of uracil, RNA is unstable. And that is why you find that the viruses which have got RNA in them, they keep on mutating. See, during pandemic also, coronavirus is an RNA virus. Of course, you do have DNA viruses also, but RNA viruses keeps on fluctuating. The reason is uracil. This you must understand. Okay. So mutations क्यों होते हैं? Uracil की वजह से. Because of uracil, the mutations occur. The chemical name of uracil is what? The chemical name of uracil is 2,4-dioxypyrimidine. Very small name. Okay. 2,4-dioxy, or I can even write it as diketo. Meaning the structure of uracil is resembling the structure of thymine. Only difference is what? There is no methyl group present at 5th position. So you can also draw the structure on your own. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? So start numbering from nitrogen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I am doing the number anti-clockwise. Here also we are starting with N1, but the direction is opposite. Now what? 2,4-diketo. Simple now. On carbon number 2, you have ketonic or oxy group. Carbon number 4, you have this. And you will have only one double bond over here, same as in case of thymine. Now let us balance the valency. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So this is 2,4-dioxypyrimidine. Now see, there is one more name for thymine. Look here. If you see this thing is common, 2,4-diketo, 2,4-diketo is common in thymine and uracil. Now only thing is that there is no methyl group as in case of uracil. So I can call thymine as uracil. I can call thymine as uracil. How? 5-methyl uracil. You are getting my point? See, 5-methyl uracil. Uracil is what? Uracil is 2,4-diketo. So to this uracil, if I just add methyl group on 5th position, it will become what? It will become thymine. Isn't it? So I can name thymine as what? 5-methyl uracil. So in exam, you should not get confused between this name. 5-methyl uracil is not uracil, children. It is thymine. It is not uracil. Okay. So, oftenly they will put such questions wherein they will make you confused. Right? So, I hope this is pretty clear. So, today what we have done with is, we have studied the structure of ribose sugar, deoxyribose sugar, then phosphate structure and the structure of all 5 nitrogenous bases. Right? Now, if at all you find the structure different from this, then this is an abnormal structure. These are the normal structures found in the DNA and RNA of all living organisms on planet Earth. But if you find some different functional groups on that base present, then that means it is a mutated base. And a mutated base will form change in a DNA and RNA. That means in evolution, mutations do occur because of the changes in the structure of the nitrogenous bases. Okay, this you have to understand. And we'll take 1 or 2 MCQs. Of course, we'll take some few more MCQs next time. But for time being, let us do at least 1 or 2 MCQs, and you'll also keep a habit of at least solving 25 MCQs daily. The question is, what is the DNA content present in human sperm? What is the DNA content present in human sperm? Now, instead of sperm, they can even put it as ovum. Okay, sperm or ovum, it's one and the same because both are sex gametes and they will have haploid number of chromosomes, right? So, how would you calculate? The options are, first 3.3 into 10 raised to 9 bases. 3.3 into 10 raised to 9 bases. Now, please be cautious about bases and base pairs. Okay. Here it is bases. Second option is 6.6 into 10 raised to 9 base pairs. Base pairs. Third option is 6.6 into 10 raised to 9 bases. Or they can even put the word nucleotides, right? And the last option is 13.2 into 10 raised to 9 bases. Now what will be the answer? You tell me. Okay. Now they are asking you DNA content. I have said human sperm. Now human sperm meaning it is a sex gamete. So it will have how many chromosomes? 23 chromosomes. Now we have studied that in this 23 chromosomes, what will be the number of base pairs? Total number of base pairs in diploid cell is what? 6.6 into 10 raised to 9 base pairs. So that means you will have half the number of base pairs. Meaning how many you will have? You will have how many? 3.3. Isn't it? In human sperm. So 3.3 into 10 raised to 9 base pairs. You're getting my point. Now do we have this option anywhere over here in the 4 options? 3.3 into 10 raised to 9 base pairs. See, base pair you are having over here, but this is 6.6. No, we are not having this option. Then what I will do? I will multiply this by 2. What will I get? 6.6 into 10 raised to 9 bases. Now see whether this option is present. 6.6 into 10 raised to 9 bases. Base pairs. 6.6 into 10 raised to 9 bases. So your correct answer is what? Option 3 and not 2. Okay. So don't get confused between bases and base pairs. Same answer, same question they can put. Instead of human sperm, they will say what? Human egg. Angiosperm, an angiosperm plant is having 24 chromosomes. And angiosperm plant is having 24 chromosomes, okay, in its leaf. In its leaf. Now understand, they have said in leaf. Now leaf is not the reproductive part. Okay, we know the vegetative parts of plant, root, stem, leaves, and we know the reproductive parts of the plant, that is flowers and fruit. Now since they are saying leaf, that means it is vegetative part, meaning it will have what? Diploid number of chromosomes. It will have diploid number of chromosomes and not haploid. So this 24 they have mentioned over here is what? It is a diploid number. That means 2n is equal to 24. This logic you have to put. Okay. They have not mentioned over here that it is diploid or haploid. They have not mentioned over here that it is 2n or n. You have to understand this. Okay. So an angiosperm plant is having 24 chromosomes in its leaf cells. Find the number of chromosomes present in synergid cell. The sequence has to be same: pollen grain, nucellus, CELLUS, nucellus, and endosperm respectively. Now this question you will understand when we will study sexual reproduction in flowering plants. We have yet to finish with that chapter, but I tell you that synergid cell is a haploid cell. Pollen grain, of course you know that pollen grain is the male gamete in case of flowering plants. So this is also having haploid number of chromosome. Nucellus is a structure which is diploid, and endosperm meaning what? Endosperm is the fruit part. Okay, the fruit which you eat. Like suppose if you are eating mango, the pulp which you are eating is what? It is the endosperm, right? And endosperm is always triploid, that is 3n. So this basic knowledge you should have, that pollen grains are haploid, nucellus is diploid, endosperm is triploid, right? We have studied ploidy, aneuploidy and euploidy. So 2n is equal to 24. Now since 2n is equal to 24, n will be equal to what? 12. N will be 12, 2n will be what? 2n will be 24. And 3n will be what? 3n will be 36. Right? Now they have given the options that 12, 12, 12, 72. Second option is 8, 8, 12, 36. Third option is 12, 12, 24, 36. And last option is 12, 12, 12, 36. Right? In the same sequence. Now what does this mean? That our answer is what? N. Now this is also N. Pollen grain is N. This is N. Nucellus is 2N. So N meaning what? 12, 12. 2N means 24. So our answer is 12, 12, 24, 36. Okay. So answer 3 is correct. Okay. So this is how you are going to solve the MCQs. Right? We'll stop here. Right. We'll conclude. And tomorrow what we'll see is the phosphodiester linkage. What are phosphoester bonds? What is glycosidic bond present in DNA structure? Okay. So it seems very simple for us that DNA is having these two polynucleotide chains, but actually you must have understood today that the bases, the structures are so much to study, right? Adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine, that is what the DNA is made up of. Tomorrow we are going to study that how these bases are bonded by N-glycosidic bond, phosphodiester bond, These bonds we are going to study. right? And then we will form the polynucleotide chain. So this is the molecular aspect. This is the structural aspect of DNA, right? So we'll stop here. Fine. Thank you.